pressure looks good.
Doubling up.
Water towers can fly! Yes!
Tango Delta nominal.
Flight SPE off. Bring in SPE off.
Yikes. You bet. Concur. We don't need any more of these.
Today, nearly 50 years to the day after Gene Cernan left the moon, the last man to set foot there. Oh, wait, this is just a Starlink. How's it going, y'all? Let us know how we're doing here. Give me some 5x5s in chat. John Galloway for NASASpaceflight. We've got Vandenberg action. There is no fog, knock on wood. I had to do it. I'm not sorry. 46 Starlink internet satellites going up into a polar orbit. Let us know if you're awake. Let's introduce the rest of the team. We sounding good? I think we're sounding good.
We're sounding fantastic.
Cool. All right, excellent. So we've got some other people here hanging out with us this evening for the Starlink, starting with Mr. Thomas Berghardt, news director for NASA Spaceflight. How you doing, Thomas?
Oh, I'm doing well. That's good for another Falcon 9 launch. This one from Vandyland over in California.
Are you sure it's Vandy? I mean, I can see the rocket.
You know, it's dirty, but every once in a while we get a clear night over there. Oh, was that a Jack I heard?
It's because Jack's not there. That's why. You kick Jack out of the West Coast, and then it switches over.
Precisely.
Mr. Jack Beyer, how are you doing, sir?
Good. It's a good thing I was muted because I snorted audibly while you did your intro there. But we are looking at a Falcon 9 on the pad at Slick 4 East at Vandenberg Space Force Base. We can see it, which means it's a good thing. It's a good thing that we can see the rocket in Vandenberg. It's not necessarily rare, but it is occasionally
notable.
Yeah, notable. There we go. Thank you. So yeah, I'm doing good. We can see the rocket. It's Vandenberg. I'm happy, even though I'm not there.
Yo, apparently I'm going to get credit for everyone talking right now. It's just me on the screen. Let's see. I'm going to see if we can't resolve that issue real quick. But I believe that's our commentary team here this evening. It's the old DOS Jack Thomas combo for the Starlink that's coming up in less than 35 minutes now. Thomas, while I stop taking credit for the entire stream, could you tell us about what's happening here?
Yeah, it's pretty... Oh, hold on. Jack wants to go first. Go ahead.
Oh, well, fine, Jack. Go.
We should just acknowledge that while we're the chuckleheads on commentary, Pauline is the person who actually rolled out and managed to set up a camera and set up the robot and do all of that.
Jack, I was hoping I could actually show her name on the screen.
No.
Like in work trying to fix that.
Got it. My bad. I am fail as usual. So Thomas, give us an overview. How about?
Yes, this is a pretty standard Vandenberg Starlink mission. There are 46 Starlink satellites on board, and they're headed to Shell 3 of the constellation. You hear us talk about all the time the different groups. There's, Group 4-23, which is the one that flew from Cape Canaveral a couple nights ago. This is Group 3-4, the fourth group of satellites being deployed into the third shell. That third shell is the 97-degree inclination orbit, so just slightly retrograde, basically a polar orbit, which is, of course, why it's launching from Vandenberg. 46 Starlink satellites on board, which is the pretty standard number for these missions. And Falcon 9 making a bit of an interesting milestone today. It will be the 150th recovery attempt for a Falcon 9. I'm going to pull up the exact numbers so we can dive into some landing statistics here. But 150 different landing attempts, and that doesn't count the we're going to splash down in the water and under the power of one engine and make a soft splashdown. The times that SpaceX has actually tried to land a Falcon booster, whether it's Falcon 9 or Falcon Heavy, on either a drone ship or a landing zone on land, 150 times with today's mission. If successful, today would be the 139th successful landing for a Falcon stage. So the numbers are getting up there. The first landing was less than 7 years ago. So in that short amount of time, they have already reached 150 attempts once this flight lifts off. So that's a cool milestone. Otherwise, a pretty standard mission. It's booster 1063, which I believe is making its 7th flight. I'm going to triple check that before I promise it. Yes, 7th flight. I was right. Booster 1063, which has been making its home over on the West Coast for a while now, supporting several flights. Supported the DART mission, a bunch of Starlink flights. and is now making a 7th flight on yet another Starlink mission. No word about fairing reuse on this flight. SpaceX doesn't usually offer a lot of details on that. Perhaps after the fact, we will get some word as to which if these fairings have flown before. But as usual, fairing recovery should be on the docket for today's flight as well. The exact launch time is 1:40 a.m. here on the East Coast, which is 10:40 p.m. on Pacific time, 05:40 UTC. So we're just over 30 minutes away. We're already into the launch auto sequence, so propellant loading is getting underway. RP1 kerosene and liquid oxygen are flowing into the first stage already. RP1 kerosene is also flowing into stage 2, and we'll get that classic T-minus 20-minute event when they switch over to liquid oxygen loading on the upper stage. I believe that gives us the basic rundown of today's flight. I'm going to take a look at some questions and things that are coming in here. Nifty is asking about our thoughts about East Coast versus West Coast. Well, normally my main dig on the West Coast isn't true today because my normal dig is that it's always foggy at Vandenberg, which isn't true tonight. So honestly, I got nothing for you, Jack. You win this round.
You know, I'm literally scratching bug bites right now. Like I doused myself in DEET. Like I put so much bug spray on, and yet the bugs at Kennedy Space Center enacted their revenge on me for being there, and I am literally scratching bug bites as I speak to you. And you know that's not a problem. That's not a problem on the West Coast. So I'm just gonna throw that out there.
I'd say there's not a bug problem in the hills of Vandenberg.
No, not at all.
You know what? That is a pretty big plus. I'll give you that.
Different strokes for different folks or coasts, I guess. But yeah, you know, each coast has its pros and cons. You guys get more launches. We have no bugs or gators or phase 2 lightning warnings or hurricanes or
rocket launches. Oh, well, maybe this one will go tonight.
Oh gosh. Okay. But yeah, point made. I think point made.
I'll just say that all the super heavy class vehicles are over here. But anyway, we can keep moving on.
Hey, you want me to show your name on the screen now? I can show your name on the screen.
Can you do that?
Look. I can show Thomas's name on the screen. Look, Thomas Berghardt, news director for NASASpaceflight.
Hey, it's me.
There you go.
Thanks, Nas. Appreciate
Jack,
that.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. Okay, Jack. There's Jack's name. We can make that display as well. Mr.
And
Jack
then I can set Das up because we got a question from Musical Wolves saying who's operating the cam, and that would be none other.
NP. Okay, Pauline Accolade. There we go. Chad, don't act like you don't sing the ABC song to sometimes remember where letters are. Pauline has rolled out there and set up not only the crew-operated camera, but we've got one of Michael's software trackers out there. We're working on getting that thing running right now. So we may have the automated algorithmic track by Michael and Pauline's track from her camera. 2 cams out there today.
Excellent.
Yeah, huge thanks to Pauline for sticking out over on the West Coast when, Jack and Michael abandoned the West Coast for SLS. Good to have Pauline out there for tonight's launch.
Absolutely.
Hey, Jinx, you owe me a Coke.
Is there an echo?
but for real,
Jack,
it's a lot more
I'm getting the echo back through your mic. Everything I say, I'm hearing through your... No, okay, sorry.
It's a lot more complicated to operate all of the live stream equipment and set up a robot and all of that than just to, go and take photos as one normally would. So definitely thank you to Pauline for rolling out and setting up all of the equipment and handling all of that while we have abandoned the West Coast otherwise. I mean, how could we not? It's SLS. It's a historic launch, but we're not talking about SLS right now, even though Engine 3 still needs to bleed properly. We are talking about Starlink. So
yeah, and we do have some more...
Go for it.
Yeah, I was going to say, we do have some more questions coming in, and I don't think we gave the usual spiel, but of course, most people who are tuning into a Starlink at 1 in the morning probably know the drill. If you have any questions, please tag us at NASASpaceflight. We'll pull a couple of those in as we get through the countdown as usual. And the first one here from Ann1, why only 46 satellites compared to 54 for the Canaveral flights? Is it due to a different inclination or flight path from Vandenberg? Anyone want to jump on that, or should I just take that?
You're the news director. You answer.
Yeah, that's for you.
That was like a question for you.
All right, I will answer the questions that I'm asking, I guess. It is as a result of the different inclination/flight path. Basically, the number of satellites is dictated by a couple different factors. What orbit it's going into, so the inclination and altitude is the biggest factor. And the reason that it's different between Vandenberg and Cape Canaveral is because they're going to different inclinations, and so the rocket needs to impart a different amount of energy to get X amount of payload mass to that orbit. And so for the Vandenberg flights, in order to get to the orbit that these satellites go into, Falcon 9 needs to expend more of its fuel to get those satellites into that orbit versus the flights that are currently flying from Cape Canaveral. And basically that equates to having the mass of 8 less satellites on this flight. So it's just all about going to different orbits. You'll also see this adjusted when there are rideshare missions, because there you have to save some mass for the rideshare payloads, and that will actually come up on the next 2 Starlink flights from Cape Canaveral. Both have some rideshare payloads coming on board. Also differentiates between the different shells. Every once in a while we're getting flights to other shells, mostly shells 4 and 3 right now, but when you go to the other shells, you'll also notice some slightly different payload numbers. Also, sometimes SpaceX inserts into slightly different orbits, especially if solar activity is being weird, and they want to insert into a slightly higher orbit for that safe reason. You'll see that number fluctuate every once in a while, but the main factor is the different launch sites and the different orbits they're going into.
Yeah, if you're launching from Florida and you're going into an equatorial or at least not polar orbit, you get a little bit of the Earth's rotation as a sort of a bonus to the energy that you have. Whereas if you're launching from Vandenberg and you're going into a polar orbit, you don't get the benefit of that rotation from the Earth. So it requires more energy from the rocket itself and thus less Starlink satellites on board.
Listen to Jack gunning for your job, Thomas. Jeez.
Hey, we have him on here for a reason. He knows his stuff.
Sometimes.
All right, Jack, I'm going to throw this one to you. Here, you set yourself up.
Let's do this.
Craig Tonix is asking, why are these satellites going to polar orbit?
Well, okay, so Starlink has multiple shells, is what they're called. There's different sets of Starlink satellites, and that is all about how the constellation works and the way that they are enabling internet access to everywhere around the globe. Is you can't just have one set of satellites all sort of orbiting in one plane. You want multiple sets all interacting with each other, all covering multiple parts of the globe at once. So there are shells that can be launched from the East Coast, from Florida, and there are shells that need to be launched from the West Coast into a polar orbit. And multiple shells, multiple sets of satellites, all working together will create the entire Starlink constellation. Is that a fair, Mr. Thomas, news director? Is that a fair assessment of the?
That
of
is
the
a Thomas-approved answer, Jack. Very well done.
Excellent. Is that a Thomas Promise approved answer?
Oh man,
I said it.
Yeah, well done. No, kudos to you. We're gonna take some super chats here again. Thank you everyone who sent support during these streams. A couple good questions in here as well. Well, this one just says, staying up all night for an Artemis scrub messed up the work week sleep schedule royally, but we have a lunch now, so let's go. Appreciate the support there.
What is sleep?
Yeah, sleep is irrelevant these days. Mystical Wolves has a question. Which coast has the most boosters? I believe that title does go to the East Coast from a pure launch cadence perspective.
Yeah, I'm not even going to argue that. That's an East Coast. That's an East Coast win.
And yeah, of course, and we've seen some boosters move between the coasts as the cadence is adjusted. Right now, SpaceX is actually launching from Vandenberg slightly more frequently than they have in the past. They're starting to spool up these Shell 3 Starlink launches, so they've shipped over a booster or two to help with that. We don't always have tabs on where every booster is at every one time, but they move them around as necessary. But obviously, Cape Canaveral is a more in-demand launch site, not just from Starlink missions, but most customer missions are better served from Cape Canaveral. Polar launches are more rare. Also, Mark, thank you for becoming a PadRat member. We appreciate that. I'll keep the questions coming. Do also want to point out that we are seeing some vapors, though, on this camera right now. You can see some condensation around the bottom parts of the rocket. Like we said, propellant loading is already underway, so the rocket's getting very cold, and the air around the rocket is condensing into visible vapors. We'll get a big stream of vent from the transporter erector, the structure next to the rocket, in just about 2 minutes as they purge those lines before liquid oxygen loading. But we will address that when we get to it. Here's a good question for you, Jack. Scott is asking if there's any chance this kind of launch would be visible in Los Angeles.
100%. Yep, definitely visible from Los Angeles. Assuming, obviously, a clear sky. Yeah, if there's clouds in the way, you're going to have a bad time. Much like if you pizza when you're supposed to French fry. But Yeah, it should be visible from Los Angeles. Even the like little tiny Minutemen are visible from Los Angeles. It's just a matter of acquiring a good sightline, having the appropriate weather, and also being patient. Because one of the things about being that far away from a launch is terrain kind of gets in the way. You know, the Earth is curved; it's not flat. Surprise, surprise. So it might take maybe like 10 or 20 seconds even after launch before you start to see it. So if you hit T0 and you're watching a live stream and you're waiting to see it and you don't see it, wait. Maybe wait even like a minute and keep looking around. Keep your eyes on the sky. That's an X-Files reference, I think. And you should see it. You should be able to spot it from Los Angeles. So definitely go outside at around T0 and keep your eyes plastered up at the sky. Good luck.
There you go. Thanks, Jack. Another question here from Ben, who is asking if this booster is coming back to Vandenberg. Well, eventually. But I think the question is more about where is the booster going to attempt to land, Jack?
Not right now.
Yeah, not like imminently.
Yeah, first it's gonna land on a drone ship, right? It's gonna land on what is it? Of Course I Still Love You, out in the Pacific Ocean, and it will be brought back to the port of LA or the port of Long Beach. Oh look, 20-minute vent. That is a nominal vent. That's what we always want to see at around T-minus 20 minutes. That is a purge of the lines on the transporter erector, and that is preparing things to be ready for launch so that there's not any propellant left in those lines and getting kind of flamey as Falcon 9 and all of the 9 Merlin engines pass by it and potentially cause any issues. That is a good thing. We're seeing what we want to see. But to go back to the answer of the question there, it's going to land on a drone ship and then be refurbished and brought back to Vandenberg. Or maybe it gets refurbished at Vandenberg. I don't know if we've gotten a straight answer on that quite yet, but it is not coming back to Vandenberg yet, but I think it's safe to say that it probably will be eventually.
Yeah, Pauline hit the enhance button. We got a nice up close view of the perfectly nominal T-minus 20-minute event. That is, of course, an expected part of the countdown. And as I mentioned briefly earlier, it is just purging the lines on that transporter erector. It means that RP1 load onto the upper stage is now complete, and they're getting ready to load the liquid oxygen onto the upper stage. And of course, they do it in that order because liquid oxygen is much more subject to boil off than RP1 kerosene is. All right, I'll keep the questions coming here. Thomas with the Super Chat question asking if we could see a Falcon Heavy from Vandenberg. I believe that would require some extensive modifications to make happen, but could in theory be done if that work was completed, right?
Yeah, I think the transporter erector can handle Falcon Heavy, but the reaction frame can't. Or maybe I'm getting it backwards, and the reaction frame can, but the transporter erector can't. But at one point, they did plan on launching Falcon Heavy from Vandenberg. I don't know that they are fully set up for it at this point in time, but you better believe if a customer comes along, cough, cough, NRO, cough, cough, that they will be able to mod things and get things in order for Falcon Heavy. I think it is fair at this point to mention that there is one more Delta Heavy from Vandenberg. It is coming up at the end of September, and it is launching from Slick 6, the legendary Slick 6 at Vandenberg. But after that Delta Heavy, there are no more scheduled from Vandenberg. So if, say, some sort of, I don't know, countrywide surveillance bureau or maybe a national reconnaissance office type organization wanted to launch a large spy satellite, maybe an optical bird that needed to be launched into a polar orbit, I think it's safe to say that sometime in the next, I don't know, 5 to 10 years, that could be launched on a Falcon Heavy from Vandenberg from Slick 4. But right now, no plans for that, but it's certainly something that could eventually happen, maybe, possibly, hopefully, who knows? And anything on an infinite timescale is possible. It's just infinitely improbable, right?
Das, you ever feel like someone's trying to tell you something, but they're kind of skirting around it to try and be like, a little coy about it?
Seems like it. I mean, I don't know exactly what he's referring to, so...
As far as I know, koi is a fish. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, you're not wrong. But thank you for the question there. And I do agree that would be very cool. We'll have to see if that capability is in demand in the next couple of years. But for now, us on the East Coast will keep all of our delayed Falcon Heavy flights. Anyway, we'll keep some more questions coming here. That Sly B says, why is it easier to launch polar orbits from the West Coast? Shouldn't it not matter? There are two factors that basically affect how easy it is to reach any particular orbit. The first and most obvious one is Earth's spin, and if you are closer to the equator, you start with more energy in the direction of lower inclination orbits, which is why the Guyana Space Center that Arianespace uses is very good for going at the geostationary orbits because you're about as close to the equator as you can get from an orbital launch site. If you are in Florida, that is the best spot from the United States for those kind of orbits. Also pretty good for the mid-inclination orbits like going to the International Space Station and some of the Starlink shells. However, if you're trying to go to a polar orbit, you actually want less of that energy because you basically have to fight it to get into these slightly retrograde orbits, like this 97-degree plane that these satellites go into. And so ideally, you would technically launch this from one of the poles. So then you would start with 0 and you'd have to remove less of that horizontal velocity, if that makes sense. Of course, it's not very practical to do that. So Vandenberg is a happy medium there, being a slightly farther north. The other factor that comes into these missions is the flight path and making sure you don't fly over populated areas, which is why you can still launch to polar orbits from Cape Canaveral, but it requires a dogleg maneuver, which bleeds a lot of energy out. Oh god, I used the word bleed in a rocket thing. We're going to hope that all the engines are bleeding properly.
Stop.
Oh my gosh.
um,
Did y'all get the shirt?
I saw the shirt. Y'all, did chat, did you see that we have a shirt, by the way?
I don't think we're actually set up to show the shirt right now.
I don't know if we are either. If you
No,
go
we're
to
not.
the shop, you'll see the engine bleed shirt and you'll know what we're talking about. Anyway,
Sleep, bleed,
You
repeat.
get it.
you'll get it. But yeah, so making sure you don't overfly populated areas is another factor that makes it easier to go to Vandenberg because there's no dogleg maneuver required for this orbit when launching from California. Hope that answers the question.
Pretty close, at least.
I hope so. Less than under 15 minutes to go. I'll keep the questions coming before we get to the business end of the countdown. Oh, here's a good one. Oh, we even know who asked this. Our good friend Alex Physics, who I think we've had on stream before, has a very interesting question. A cookie to the commentator that knows how many times Engine 3 on a Falcon 9 ignites during a nominal mission.
It's 3, right?
I'm trying to think. Obviously, liftoff is the first one.
Yep. Then entry burn and then landing burn, right? Unless I'm mistaken.
But it doesn't burn. It doesn't ignite during the landing burn.
Then 2. Then it's 2.
I think it's just 2 because I think engine 3 is one of the engines that fires during the entry burn, but it should be 2 then.
All right. Then.
Of course, we're gonna find out, and Alex will probably let us know in the back channel if we got it right because I don't remember which engines are the entry burn exactly, but I'm guessing. We got it wrong. Engine 3 is not part of the entry burn then.
Oof.
Which engines are the entry burn, Alex? Give us the real answer so we can share with the class. But all right, no cookies for us, Jack, I think.
We just got. That hurts. Alex got us.
Engines 1, 5, and 9 are the ones that are relit for the entry burn because number 9 is the center engine, and then 1 and 5 are the 2 outside engines used for the burn. Well, there we go. We learned something. Thank you, Alex.
Resisting the urge to make a 9 times reference. I kind of just did, like, tangentially.
Oh, man. All right. T-minus 13 minutes of counting. I'll keep the questions coming. Let's see. What happens to the second stage of Falcon 9? Is it deorbited? We'll double check and let the back room confirm, but I am like 99% certain that this flight profile does include a deorbit burn for the second stage. I believe all the Starlink flights standard have a deorbit burn. Every once in a while we've seen flights not get deorbited, but those have been very rare. I think it's been a while. No one in the back channel is telling me I'm wrong, so I'm pretty sure that means that I was correct there.
Just move on.
Just go with it.
Moving
Smile and nod.
It is standard procedure to deorbit the upper stage, especially on these low Earth orbit missions. It's easy to do that. Let's see. What are the chances that Vandenberg supports a Starship mission in the future? I think non-zero. What do you think, Jack?
I hope non-zero. I don't think either way, but I certainly hope non-zero chance. SpaceX wants to launch a lot of Starships, and they want to do so rapidly, and that requires multiple launch sites. We've seen them, or reports of them, interested in building out LC-49 at the Cape, in addition to 39 for Starship, They want multiple pads all across the country. So it would be great if we can see them build out a Starship pad at Vandenberg. My immediate thought goes to Slick 6, which we just talked about in relation to Delta Heavy. Slick 6 was a shuttle pad, and then they turned it into a Delta Heavy pad. And, after this last Delta Heavy in September, I don't know that there is a customer lined up for Slick 6. So it could very well be, if all of my dreams come true and life is perfect and everything is right in the world, that Slick 6 is acquired or rented or whatever by SpaceX, and they turn it into a Starship pad. How amazing would that be? But as of right now, there's been no rumblings as to that. There's been no rumors or anything of that nature. But it certainly isn't out of the realm of possibility. We could see that happen. We could also see it not happen. I certainly do wonder, though, what will happen next to Slick 6. It was originally slated to be a pad for Omega, the Northrop Grumman solid booster, but Omega is dead. Omega dead, and so I don't know that there is a current, solicitor or customer or any company that is currently taking over Slick 6 after ULA is done. ULA, of course, does have the Vulcan rocket, which is coming up and will debut here hopefully soon, but Vulcan is actually going to be launched from Slick 3, where they currently launch Atlas rockets from. So they will transition Slick 3 from Atlas to Vulcan, and so ULA no longer needs Slick 6. So we'll have to just wait and see what happens there. But certainly, if I won the lottery, it would not consist of me getting millions of dollars. It would consist of Slick 6 getting purchased by SpaceX or leased by SpaceX, and Starship becoming viable from Vandenberg. I would be a happy guy, but I don't think that surprises anybody. And I suppose we can move on to the next question there.
There you go. Yeah, we'll keep the questions coming here. Under 10 minutes to go here. Here's a good question from Bjorn, and there's actually a follow-up question from someone else I'll tie in here in a second. Do we know what the next RTLS launch from Florida will be? Looking to attend my first launch within 6 months or so, flying in from Europe. Off the top of my head, and I just did a quick manifest check as well, and I don't see any that come before this that should be RTLS, unless a Falcon Heavy cooperates. But the Transporter 6 mission in December could, in theory, be an RTLS. I don't remember or know if we even know the exact recovery profile on the next transporter flight, but a few of those have been return to launch site profiles, so that might be your best bet. However, Jack, I believe a return to launch site from a different launch pad, perhaps one in California, is coming sooner, correct?
Correct. That is going to be, and thanks to Alex on our back channel for this, that is SDA Trans 0 Flight 1, which is no earlier than September 29th. So we should get an RTLS at Vandenberg relatively soon here. And that kind of owes to what you're talking about, Thomas, earlier with the increase of cadence from Vandenberg. It certainly feels like it's almost like salvo mode, at least compared to how Vandenberg was in the 2019 to 2021 timeframe, where it felt like there was barely anything going on. Now it's like there's multiple launches a month from Vandenberg, and of course most of those are Starlink, but we will get another RTLS from Vandenberg here soon, hopefully in the next month or two, which will be excellent.
RTLS is always good, no matter what coast it's flying from. I agree. I'm going to speed run some super chats and things because there's a whole bunch coming in, and I want to get to all of them before we have to shut up and listen to the rocket.
Yeah, it's like 7 minutes here.
Yeah, which, by the way, at the 7-minute mark is engine chill for the 9 Merlin engines on that first stage. Should note that. So, assuming all the engines are bleeding correctly, we should have some chilled engines for launch here. Wandering Fool is a new member at the red team level. So, Wandering, thank you so much for your support there. Here we go. Harry Stranger, our good friend Harry, reminding us that the West Coast does have boosters that get transported horizontally on barges after flight now. So that is fun. And Harry, thank you for the support and all of your support with satellite imagery and things like that as well.
But
guy
Peter
acts
Beck,
like he's got a satellite image or something.
But Peter Beck says that marine assets suck. What do you mean transporting barges, transporting Falcon 9s on a barge? How could that be?
We got another question. This is actually interesting. What does Falcon 9 do if an earthquake were to occur during propellant load?
That's a good question.
Good
I would
God.
assume it'd be some, they wouldn't really matter until some sensor detected that something was wrong. Like, I don't know. I guess if the earthquake was severe enough, they could halt fueling, like, safe the vehicle as quickly as possible and, like, go out and do damage inspections. Because I don't know if you want to, like, trust that all the sensors say, oh, yeah, we're still good after an earthquake hits the launch site. You might want to, like, detank, inspect things, and then fly again on your backup window or something. But I
will
don't know. Has that
say-
ever happened?
I don't know if it. Go ahead,
Go, Jack.
Doss.
No. I don't live there. How would I know if it earthquakes or not?
Okay, well, I will say that living in Los Angeles, I follow multiple automated Twitter accounts that will basically post every single time there's any sort of earthquake, and you might be surprised if you don't live in the area how often earthquakes occur. It's really, really common. It's just a lot of those earthquakes are like a 1.0 or a 2.0 on the Richter scale, and thus you don't even feel them. Like, I've slept through more earthquakes than I have felt, which is kind of wild to think about. So I wouldn't be surprised if there were earthquakes that occurred in close enough vicinity to Vandenberg for for it to be registerable. Registerable? Is that a word? I don't know. But the point I'm trying to make is it would have to be a relatively severe earthquake to affect things, and that would be relatively rare. So I think if it was intense enough of a quake to be registered and felt by people on the ground there, they would obviously stop launch operations until they knew things were okay. But it's not out of the realm of possibility. There's a lot of fault lines in California. There's a lot of earthquakes. They happen all the time, but big earthquakes kind of a more rare sort of thing. But that's just how plate tectonics work. They're just constantly shifting and moving and grinding against each other, and it's a measurable thing. But luckily, we haven't seen anything disastrous happen in relation to earthquakes with a launch site in California, and hopefully we never do.
Yeah, exactly.
Good to know.
Speed running a couple more super chats quick as we get close to the business end here. The law just asking if we're all having a nominal day and why so. Well, yes, there's a rocket launch, so it is a nominal day, I'd say. Appreciate the support. DJ is asking us if this is our own live footage. Yes, you are looking at our own cameras out deployed at Vandenberg. Our own photographer, Pauline Acklin, has rolled out to Vandenberg, out to the press viewing site for this launch, and is operating a pair of cameras that we are showing live to you. So we appreciate Pauline, as well as Space Launch Delta 30, giving us media access for this launch. Greatly appreciated.
Shout out to Patrick. Hey, Patrick. Thanks.
Hey, Patrick. I want to go hang out with Patrick. Patrick sounds like such a cool PAO.
Yeah, he's the best. He's literally the best. He's got a green El Camino with hydraulics, and he regularly activates those hydraulics while on base, which I think maybe I've said too much, but Patrick rules.
That's awesome.
Also, Christopher chiming in on the how many times that engine 3 ignites and mentioned that sometimes there's a boost back burn, but I think those 3 engines are the same ones that are used for the entry burn. So I still think the answer is only 1, no matter what the recovery profile is. Good thinking, though.
Yeah. And coming up on 3 minutes here, it looks like T-minus 3 minutes before the launch is scheduled. So I think we may be coming to the point where we're going to put a little bit of a pause on super chats and stuff like that and get into what's about to happen with the rocket. Are we ready to do this?
We sure are.
What sort of are we ready to do this? What sort of thing was that to say?
I am pulling go. I am pulling go for launch for whatever that's worth, which is probably nothing. But hey, there you go. We should see momentarily here sort of a similar behavior as the T-minus 20-minute vent. There's sort of like a T-minus 2-minute vent, right? And so we should see another big vent from the rocket here momentarily.
All right, excellent. So there's 10,000 people almost watching us. 9,400 at least. Maybe another couple will come in here. If this is the sort of thing y'all like, honey. Honey? Did I just call all of chat honey?
I think you did.
What the heck? Oh my gosh. Well, anyways, if this is the sort of thing y'all like, it's sort of like a Q&A show. We're not official NASA. We are a group of, I guess, an organization that does independent coverage of all things spaceflight, even the launches that other people don't think are important enough to stream. And we're here to answer your questions. We're here to have some fun. Jack tells jokes and shares his favorite bacon recipes. And if this is the sort of thing that you like, you know how to follow the channel and get back here. Click on the button. If you like if you like the fact that I just called y'all all honey, click the like button as well and just register your. Go what, Jack?
You're from North Carolina, which I'm going to count as a southern type of location, even though it's North Carolina. But you can call people honey. It's like a southern comfort kind of thing. But
Yeah, but the only person I call honey is my wife, and she's asleep right now. So.
Well, yeah, there you go. Also, side note, cook your bacon in the oven. It's far better than in a pan. Anyways, I digress.
Oh my gosh, 1 minute.
1 minute to go.
Game faces.
Game face.
Yeah, so right now, the Falcon 9 has entered startup, which is the final minute of the countdown. The onboard computers will have taken over control of the vehicle and is doing some final pressurization of all the tanks to flight levels. That just gives the tanks a little bit more strength, so when the vehicle starts accelerating, the vehicle is structurally sound on the way up towards space. At just a couple seconds before launch, the engine ignition sequence will start on all 9 of the engines on that first stage, and we should see Falcon 9 lift off at T0 and begin the trip to orbit. SpaceX launch radio has just confirmed that all systems are go for launch. T-minus 20 seconds.
I hear crickets too, so our microphone came on. It'll take a little bit of time for that sound to hit our microphone coming across the canyon out there at Vandy, but it will come to our mic and you will hear it. Now under 10 seconds.
Let's do this. Let's go to space.
There is the sound suppression water system being activated. Ignition. And there's liftoff of the Falcon 9 on the Starlink 3-4 mission from Vandenberg.
Nice. Come on, honey. Wait. So that sound is coming across the canyon. Yep, go ahead.
Falcon 9 pitching down range.
Jack can't hear me. Why would I try talking right now?
You. Vehicle is past supersonic.
Oh, basically just looking straight up the tailpipe of that thing.
Quite a view. I
What
love
a cool shot.
how you can see the exhaust plume expand as it ascends into thinner and thinner atmosphere. The little bit of blue at the end of the plume there, it's just absolutely gorgeous. Always a treat to see a launch, whatever vehicle it is, but especially Falcon 9 and especially from Vandenberg.
Yeah, that sound though too. God, the sound was really hitting the mic there tonight.
Yeah, that was excellent. I can't imagine what it would be like to be there in person, but
look at this. This is actually Michael's automated track, and you can see the stars passing in the background.
Gotta love it.
No kidding.
No big
That
deal.
plume
Just
expanding.
Michael controlling a robot from across the country with automated tracking software. No, no big deal.
Yeah, Michael's in Florida right now. Michael is actually down in Florida supporting the SLS coverage, the Artemis 1 coverage we were doing, and he was running that track on the robot deployed at Vandenberg from the hotel room all the way back in Florida. That's pretty cool.
And there is main engine cutoff, or MECO, so the 9 engines on first stage have shut down. The stages have then separated, so stage 1 and 2 flying separate now. And there is ignition of the single MVAC engine on the upper stage, going to push the payload the rest of the way to orbit. And we still got the track there of stage 2 firing. Wonder if we can catch a glimpse of fairing separation here.
I don't know. Let's see. Look at
There's
that
a
plume expansion.
This
There
is a
you go. Is that a
beautiful shot.
fairing? There's a
It looks-
couple. Oh, there's going to be a couple thruster firings too. I think we caught a couple glimpses of fairing there.
I think maybe.
Yeah, I think you're right.
There's
You
like
can
a
see the thruster firing, though. Look at the thrusters firing. Wow. Normally, we only see this when it's the sunrise or sunset effect, right?
Mhm.
Where it's dark on the ground, but the sun is shining on the rocket plume. And this is the first time I think we've seen these thrusters firing when it's in the dark. I mean, it's full on dark over there, isn't it? It looks dark.
Yeah, I wonder if that's the light of the actual MVAC engine illuminating some of the
Yeah.
thruster plumes. Because it is just a
Wow.
very clear night, which doesn't happen a lot.
Not a lot of humidity because it's Vandenberg and the fog isn't there right now, I guess, huh?
Right. Anyway, a gorgeous track here as the rocket continues downrange. The fairing has, of course, separated, so all of the major staging events have completed. The first stage is going to be coasting up towards its apogee and beginning to deploy its grid fins. In fact, the grid fins are probably already deployed by now. And the stage will be just slowly rotating itself to the re-entry burn attitude, waiting for the time to make that second of 3 burns on stage 1 for its recovery. And the upper stage will just be continuing on with its 1 burn towards its orbit.
Look at that. You can still track that downrange. Hey, did anybody on the coast of California see it? Maybe you're listening to us on the stream. Maybe you walked outside to see if you could see it. I'm curious if anybody else could see this. Let us know in chat if you were able to find it. Saw it live from Santa Cruz. Tranquility Base said they saw it live from Santa Cruz, California.
Nice. I have a friend about 40 minutes north of Vandenberg. Shout out to Colleen. Hey, she said she heard it and it was super loud, which is extra cool. I mean, it sounded loud even on our feed. It was quite a noise there. The atmospheric conditions must have been just right.
Yeah, look at this. Supermax says saw it in San Diego. There's No Dice also saw it in San Diego. From Fresno, Rose Shadow saw it, seeing it in Woodland right now. We've got Palm Springs is currently watching it. Lenmore, California can see it. Simi Valley saw it in LA. We've got a SLO. Quite a few people, actually. So Apple Valley, California can see it from Victorville. A lot of people checking in, seeing that they were able to, saying they were able to see it. That's awesome.
Gotta love it. I'm glad people are able to view a thing shooting into space. I mean, maybe in the next couple of years, in the next 5 to 10 years, it will become sort of more commonplace and boring. But as of right now, it is still relatively unique and super cool to see. And I'm glad people were able to step out of their homes or wherever they were at the moment and see a rocket launching 46 Starlink satellites into a polar orbit. How cool is that?
Yeah. Look at this. It's like the brightness of a star now, and Michael's still tracking it.
I would act surprised, but it's Michael, so I'm literally not surprised at all. It's Michael.
That's amazing. Oh, wait, is this an entry burn or which burn is this?
Oh, that was entry burn.
That was the entry burn.
That looked like it was Pauline's camera and catching a glimpse of re-entry. And now, of course, we'll get the replay thanks to SpaceX latency.
Yep. Yay 4K.
But yeah,
Look, if you want to see what's happening like 30 seconds after it actually happens, watch in 4K.
But there is a successful entry burn, and now we are getting those onboard views as the grid fins get nice and toasty during re-entry. But stage 1 heading down towards Of Course I Still Love You. Again, this is the 150th recovery attempt for a Falcon booster. Everything going well so far for both stages. This has been the 7th flight of booster 1063 in the Falcon fleet, and now trying to make its 7th landing.
It had a little freeze on the stage 1 telemetry there, but it looks like it picked back up.
Yeah, that telemetry will come in and out along with the video. Pretty well expected. It's pretty dark right now, but it'll light up once that landing burn begins in just a couple seconds here.
I wonder, is this from the rocket looking down right now?
It was that grid fin camera, yeah, and it just got so dark you can't see anything right now.
We'll see if we get a relight here, and then all of a sudden it gets real bright.
See just a little bit of vapor going through those grid fins. That's cool.
You can see the grid fins there now. Nice.
And there is ignition, so that center engine igniting for the landing burn. I see one light there on the ocean. That's probably, of course, I Still Love You.
I thought there was 4
What?
lights.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry.
Look at that shot, though. Come on, stay stable. There goes the leg deploy.
Hey, not bad.
There you go. Very cool. I actually like the fog that sort of, not the fog, the exhaust that sort of occluded the camera there. And look at the vent on the side there of Falcon 9 going.
That is Booster 1063. Landed on, of course, I Still Love You. 7 trips to space and back. No big deal.
That is the deadest of center. Look at that. What a landing.
Yeah.
Nailed that landing for sure. All right, switching our attention over to stage 2, which just had Seco 1, second engine cut off. That gets stage 2 and its stack of Starlink satellites successfully deployed or put into their initial orbit.
Now they just got to like sling them off in a little bit, right?
Yeah, that was going to be a brief coast phase here before they actually separate those satellites. Actually, I take that back. I have to correct myself. There is a coast phase before a second burn. My apologies. This also varies based on the different missions and orbits and things. But this upper stage will be doing a pretty long coast phase. So it'll be a while before SpaceX is able to confirm payload separation because they're going to coast for about 50 minutes or so. And then the upper stage will relight very briefly to circularize that orbit, and then they will deploy the satellites. So it's a little bit before spacecraft separation, but so far the initial ascent has gone well. Stage 1 performed perfectly, and Stage 2 has reached a nominal initial orbit.
Excellent. And here we are on my favorite shot on launch day. It's a launch pad that doesn't have a rocket on it anymore because us and 10,000 of our friends got to just witness that launch of the Falcon 9 taking the Starlink satellites up. It's always I like to see this launch at the end of the end, I guess not the end of the broadcast, but after the launch because it just shows that we got to see a cool rocket launch. Do we have some things to clear out here, Thomas, I think?
Yeah, really quick here. It's a couple more super chats that have come in here throughout the stream. Thank you to everyone who sends support during the streams. It allows us to do what we do. Joseph Pistrito with a $20 super chat. Appreciate the support there, Joseph. Nice. Also, Early Warning Labs with a $20 super chat. Wow, there was a string of $20. That was a popular amount. We appreciate that. Very generous amount of support. Also, Morello saying, thank you guys for covering this beautiful launch from Vandy. Our pleasure. A huge thank you to Pauline for rolling out. She's the one that made this stream happen with rolling out and deploying the cameras. And on that note, Eliza says, good morning to the NSF team. Great job on the track by both Pauline and Michael. Gotta love the sound of rockets before the morning coffee. We definitely appreciate that, Eliza, and we pass on your thanks to the team, Michael and Pauline, doing a great job tonight.
Yeah, absolutely.
ePhoenix has become that. Also, Katrina with another PadRat membership as well, so appreciate both of you joining the program. And then Donald saying, for all the hard work you all do with a super chat support as well, so greatly appreciated there too. All right, Das, there's your favorite launch day view.
It's true. That's my favorite launch day view. Folks, like across the board, we're able to keep doing what we do because y'all keep showing up. Whether you're just like watching the streams or hanging out or asking questions, or we do a tweet and you like retweet because you're following at NASASpaceflight on Twitter or whatever it is, we are able to do this because of y'all's support. And it doesn't just have to be cash. Like I was saying, it doesn't have to be a super chat. It doesn't have to be via YouTube. It can be simple things just like showing up to watch the stream or sharing it with a family member or something like that. If you want to force your family members to share in your love of rockets, you can actually visit our merch store here. We've got some cool designs. We got a bunch of Artemis stuff right now, including that retro road to Artemis. We've actually got some cool RTLS designs for SpaceX booster landings. There's one that has a broomstick on it. We got metal prints you can put on your wall, these fantastic photographs that we turn into these awesome high-quality metal solid prints that you hang on the wall. We've got there we go. That's the broomstick landing one. It's a picture of a broomstick doing the Falcon 9 trajectory. All sorts of things from like technically cool to sort of wacky, like the scrub shirt that we released. If anybody's been following Artemis 1, today after we got the news of what they're doing with Artemis 1, we released a shirt that says "Eat, bleep with a question mark, bleed engine 3, and then repeat. So looking forward to that launch attempt for on Saturday for Artemis 1 as the NASA teams get ready to make another attempt, launching SLS down there at the Cape. Of course, we're going to be covering that for sure. What else? Do we have anything else scheduled between now and then, Thomas?
Off the top of my head, I don't think so. Although I do feel inclined to mention that if you don't want to wait till Saturday to see views of SLS, I think there's somewhere else you can go.
There is. We do currently have a 24/7 stakeout stream of SLS showing live views that are generally properly exposed of the rocket so that you can actually see what's going on. We've been streaming that. We expect that stakeout stream to continue on all the way up until we start our commentary stream. And our commentary starts at L-9 hours. So launch day, L-9 hours, or I guess T-9 hours. One of those -9 hours.
L-9 hours, not
L-9
T-9
hours.
hours.
We're going to be here doing live commentary for 9+ hours straight, answering your questions, letting you know what's going on with SLS, and just having a space friend good time. We've got all sorts of engineering cameras. We actually work with NASA to get access to some of their engineering cameras showing close-ups of the rocket as it's being fueled and prepped and that sort of stuff. We've got our own cameras. Michael's got a tracking camera. We've got rooftop cameras. We've got crewed cameras. We've got cameras all over the map for Artemis 1. So if you're interested in seeing that, please hang out with us in the stakeout stream, which is maybe where this is going to end up. And we will see you on Saturday for that Artemis 1 launch attempt. Also, down in Boca Chica, if you're a Starship fan, Mary got an overpressure notice for tomorrow. And it is very possible that SpaceX may do some static fire testing of Ship 24 and Booster 7 out there. So if that actually looks like it's going to happen, because they did a static fire notice today and didn't do one, and they did one yesterday and they didn't do one. I don't know, maybe they need to swap out some of those bleed valves with SLS or something. But if they do get the static fire going, that would be something that we would be covering as well, either on Starbase Live or on our own dedicated stream to cover the Starbase testing events. But for now, I think that Pauline is going to have to pack this stuff up and get out of the press site, which means we'll lose our live camera. Hopefully we'll see you over at the stakeout stream as we watch Artemis, the big orange rocket, hanging out on the pad. Grab one of those Eat, Sleep, Bleed Engine 3 repeat shirts, because no one's going to know what that shirt means if you wear it around town. But you'll know, and that's what counts. But for now, I think we're going to go ahead and shut this down. Sound good, Thomas and Jack?
Yeah, sounds good. Das and Jack, thank you for hopping on commentary as well. That was John Galloway, also known as Das on the comms, also helping out with some of the technical work in the background during today's stream. And then Jack Beyer, who is a photographer, videographer, host, video editor, many, many things for NSF. So Jack, thank you for your help today as well.
Absolutely. And once again, massive thanks to Pauline for rolling out, deploying that operated camera, her own camera that she was tracking with, and taking out that tracking robot for Michael. And massive thanks to Michael for staying up over here on the East Coast and rolling that track for us. That was a fantastic track today. But I do believe that brings us to the end of our coverage here. And we will see you nerds over at the SLS Stakeout. Take it easy, y'all. Thanks for watching.
Liftoff. Propulsion continues to be normal.
RCP chamber pressure looks good. Toggling up. Roger, roll with Atlantic.
Water towers can fly! Yes!
Echo Delta nominal.
Flight outside SCE off. Say again, SCE off.
Yikes. You bet. Concur. We don't need any more of these.
Wait. That was a good one.